Kerri, Kerri, I'm so excited to see you.
And me too.
Oh my
It's been
God.
so long.
It's been way too long, and I'm excited because I really have not been to Costa Rica in so
Yes, I know.
long. Um, and yeah, and it's been 6 years.
Six
My
years.
God.
6 years. Yeah.
And you haven't aged a bit, which I love. The Costa Rican air is very good for you.
Oh, really? Thank you. I know I've lost weight since the last time I saw you.
Who opens an Irish pub in the middle of Costa Rica? It's
Well, you know.
amazing. Um, well, So I want people to get to know you and get to know K-Rays and all that kind of stuff. So let's start a little bit like prior to moving to Costa Rica because we'll get into
Okay.
all that. So where are you from originally? What were you doing in the States and what prompted the move to Costa
Okay,
Rica?
so I'm originally from Worcester, Massachusetts. I grew up there, and then I was working in Boston, tired of the cold weather, so I said I need to go somewhere southern that is a little warmer more most of the year. I do ride motorcycles, so we went down for Bike Week in Myrtle Beach one year, and it was so much less expensive, housing, everything. Also, I had owned a pub in Massachusetts, and they went non-smoking, which I'm not a smoker, but most of my customers in a bar are. And when I visited South Carolina, there's no rules there at all because it's, South and North Carolina are tobacco countries. So price wise and just the opportunity for more business, successful business, I moved to South Carolina for 13 years. Yeah.
Wow. 13.
13, and I had 3 K-Rays there. Then it's still cold in the winter. It gets icy, very icy and cold, and I just wanted somewhere warm to go for the off season of the restaurant there. And several of my friends surf and said, you need to go to Costa Rica. You don't have to learn a new language. You don't, there's all sorts of reasons why you should go to Costa Rica over the other countries that they surf in. So I came down, did some research, stayed up in Tamarindo area. Decided I didn't like Tamarindo because it was too busy for me. I was trying to get away from the busyness of the tourists. And someone told me this place was for sale. So we took a drive down here and checked it out, and it was exactly what I was looking for. I wanted something in the mountains that I could sit and have my cup of coffee in the morning or a cup of tea, because I'm Irish, and still have something to do if I did decide to retire. I wouldn't be bored.
So where are you exactly? So tell me where
Okay.
Nosara is and describe the town to people who may never have heard
Okay.
of it.
So Nosara is in the Guanacaste region of Costa Rica. We're about 2 hours south of Liberia Airport, about 5 hours north of San Jose Airport on the Pacific coast. Nosara is it's growing like crazy, but it's still that it's been here for so long that families come every year for generations with all their kids, and then their kids come. So it's a very small community. Like I said, with all the advertising for surfing in Playa Guiones, because it's supposedly one of the best places in the world. I don't surf still. It's just getting so busy. It's booming, but it's a lot of my age people, 30s, 40s, my age, 50s, that just want to get out of the States or Canada.
Wow. And it's a big kind of yoga retreat town, if I
It's
recall, right?
huge yoga retreat. And it's just, since I've been here in 6 years, it's just grown incredibly. The amount of retreat studios and retreat resorts that are here, and they're packed. And because now with all the retreats coming in, there's now restaurants and shops, and it's growing at such a pace but people are loving it because it's got a different vibe than most of the other areas in Costa Rica, and they love it.
And I remember there was like a lot of like unpaved roads and stuff. Like you need a four-wheel drive.
Oh,
It was like being in an amusement park every single day. But people who live in Nosara like that, and they want to keep it that
well, we
way.
used to. The thing is, when you come as a tourist, or you're thinking, oh, this, I might live here. Oh, this is exciting. It's dirt roads. And then when you move here and you buy your own vehicle, you think this is not so fun anymore because you're spending so much money fixing your vehicle that you wish for paved roads, which, as a matter of fact, last year, they actually paved probably 3 or 4 miles of paved road from Garza to just almost before you get to the turn to my road. They paved it, and there's plans to pave more of it. Which there's 50-50 on people that don't want it paved because people are now coming here more because it's quicker to get here. They're realizing that it's paved roads, so it's easier to drive and it's not as expensive for their vehicles. But then there's those old school people that realize that the dirt roads bring less people, and it's growing so fast that a lot of the old school people, and I've only been here 6 years, and I'm one of those, that it's growing so fast that it's we can't keep up. And yes, I'm in a tourist business and having a pub, but I would rather see it be a little quieter like it was when I moved here.
Well, I'm sure, the pandemic definitely prompted a lot of
Oh, the
moves.
pandemic
Um,
created a whole different mindset because a lot of the Ticos that live in San Jose, what happened was they gave them other companies like Amazon have corporate headquarters. Um, they gave them computers to bring to their houses so they could work online. And a lot of them, instead of being in San Jose, said, well, I can just go to Nosara, Guiones, Playa Pilata, and do it there. So we just had an influx of digital nomads to the point where Costa Rica is actually talking about doing a digital nomad visa now. Yeah.
wow.
And it hasn't passed yet, but it's there's a resort called Selena that's international, and it's full. It's been full since COVID started because they advertise as come here if you're a digital nomad, and it's just people are coming from all over the world, renting houses with their kids, putting their kids in the schools here, because they're digital nomads. So I don't see it changing anytime soon either because a lot of these companies said, it's a lot cheaper for us to just keep you at your house than to have an office. That's what I mean by it's just these people are coming in and buying up property and building houses and restaurants and shops. And I mean, we had one little doctor's office and now I think there's four. And we had one pharmacy and now there's like 4 or 5. And it's getting mainstream. Yeah.
Wow. That's
It's
insane.
it's good and bad, but it's just happening too fast for a lot of us.
Right. No, I
Yeah.
totally get that. So actually you touched upon
Yes.
healthcare. So I don't know if you've been sick since you've been there, but what is healthcare like over there? I mean, it has a really good reputation, abroad. So have you had to see a doctor, and what is that experience
I
like?
have. So we have a really good doctor's office in town. It's called Paradise Medical. They've been here for quite a few years. And if you have an issue, you go to them, you take care of it. If they can't handle it, they'll send you to either Nicoya, which is an hour and a half away, or to Liberia, which is about 2 hours away. Um, the public health here is not very good at all, unfortunately. If you have private, you can afford to go private. Like I had a couple of accidents where I had to go to have surgery. I had to go to Liberia, and the hospital was absolutely wonderful, but it was private. I had to pay out of pocket. So the biggest complaint is if you need to be on public health insurance here. Like once I get my residency, I have to go on the public health insurance, but I'll still might go to a private hospital because if it's an emergency, it's still a long wait for you to get to see a doctor.
Well, if you're going privately and you're paying out of pocket, I'm assuming that paying out of pocket, you're still paying less than you would in the
Absolutely.
US out of pocket.
Example, my accident that I had, I walked into a piece of metal and uh, injured my head. Yeah, I don't want to get graphic. Injured my head, so I had to go have surgery in Liberia. And all total for the surgery, and they put me under, um, was $4,000. Four
Wow.
thousand dollars. So in that case, it's definitely if you don't mind doing private and you can afford private, because a lot of retirees are basically, they're paying their bills on their pension. They can afford
Right.
rent and food, but the extras they can't really afford as much as at least a lot of the ones that I've talked to. So if you don't have the money and you don't have the means, then it's still a tough thing to do to pay out of pocket. But $4,000 for putting me out and stitching me up was pretty cheap.
So tell me a little bit about the property that you purchased, what you
Okay.
purchased. Um, I saw it at the very beginning when you kind of first started renovating
Oh
it,
yeah,
and I'd love to hear about the updates and what you've been doing and what you built.
absolutely. So it was a main house that has 2 bedrooms. And then it had three cabinas, which are, they call them cabinas here, technically like a hotel room. All the cabinas are renovated. They each have two queen size beds, a little mini kitchen. I have a small one that has one queen size bed, a little mini kitchen. It's on almost 2.5 acres of land, huge gardens. I'm on the other side of the road where there aren't any other houses, so it's extremely quiet. I have a large outdoor kitchen with the pub and a big, huge beer garden that seats about 60 people that has a view of the mountains. So my main customer base now, I get a lot of European people that come to stay here because they don't surf. They don't need to be footsteps from the water. They just want to see the wildlife, which is abundant up here at my house. They want to be close to Ostinal and close to shopping if they want to go to Guiones and Pilata, because Ostinal has the turtles. It's supposedly the best place in the world to see the turtles laying their eggs and hatching, and the eggs hatching. And so people want to be in between there, and they want to be able to go into town if they want to where it's busy, but they want to come back to where it's nice and quiet. And I mean, if you stay here one night, you're already part of the family, so to speak. And it's very busy. I get people from Israel, Dubai, England, Ireland, all over the world. A lot of Canadians. I say the cold countries because, again, they're not surfers. And I have some people that stay for 2 days, 3 days, and I have people now that are staying here for 3 months. So it all varies. Right now, I'm only on Airbnb, which is fine with me because that's about all I can handle. And but I'm fully booked from November 1st through mid-May, and then rainy season starts. So, but it's a pretty large property. I have 3 full-time staff members, one that does the garden, the pool, and maintenance, which I couldn't do it without him, and I couldn't do it without the girl in the kitchen and the girl that bartends and serves. We get a lot of my guests and restaurant customers they live in town, so they know about me, and they come up to eat, drink, swim in the pool, check out the wildlife and the views. And then I also get a lot of tourists because I have about 1 million signs out there telling people where to come. So it's very effective. So yeah, it's pretty busy.
And so how much did you pay for this property with 2 bedrooms and three
Three
casitas
casitas.
and a restaurant and a
Yep.
pool?
Well, I got a really good deal. If anyone's looking to move here, I got a really good deal. And I paid $375,000 for the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, so what about cost of living then? What is that like over there?
Oh boy. Actually,
Is that good or bad?
well, it depends on where you are. So I'm in Nosara, which of course is the most expensive town in the entire country.
Really?
Yes, and that is they've done research, and it is absolutely the most expensive town in Costa Rica. The food, the gas, everything is double, sometimes triple, than many of the areas in Costa Rica. Your bigger tourist areas are going to be about the same because they know it's tourists coming in. But you can go down to Uvita, Dominical, Zancudo, Pavones, where it's like this was 30 years ago, where you're paying a third to a half of the price that you would pay here. There's also not a lot down there as far as infrastructure, and so it depends. If you want to be in an area where there's all the conveniences, you're going to pay for them. If you want to be in an area where you don't mind that you don't have all the grocery stores and 4 different hardware stores, then you'll pay a lot less because they don't have those conveniences. So, but it's not as cheap as people think it is.
Wow. So say, you go to the supermarket, how much you spending? I mean, you have a restaurant, but if it's for you, just for
Right.
you,
You're right.
what would you spend for weekly groceries, for example?
Weekly groceries, at least 200 for me alone, $250. And I don't buy a
A
lot.
week?
A week. Is that, I don't know, is that a lot? I don't know.
Yeah.
I never buy for me, so I always, I'm
Okay.
always, well, I go more like by item. So like I have cats, and this is going to be an example but in the States, I pay about 50 cents a can for a can of cat food, and here I pay $2 a can. $2 a can.
Wow.
There's a lot like butter, cheese, milk. A lot of the staples like that are very expensive here, which I still don't understand because there's about 8 million cows in this country. And nobody can seem to explain why it's so expensive. But yeah, there's your staples, and like the States, and the healthier foods are a lot more expensive, which is why a lot of the people here, like I have fruit trees, I have vegetable trees, I haven't bought a plantain in 4 years because I have plantain trees. So a lot of people have their own, farms, chickens, they get their own eggs. But yeah, if you come here and you think you're gonna, spend less than you spend in the States or Canada, think again. It's not cheap. Again, where I am, but there are other areas that you can easily find it much more affordable. I can only
So
speak for
why
where I
is
am.
Nosara so expensive?
Nosara is so expensive because there are so many people in town now. So they know, people know they can get it. And a lot of the products that we're comfortable with, they're getting in. So that's obviously more expensive because they're importing. And it's supply and demand. If you have all these tourists demanding the supply, they know they can get whatever they can for it.
Would
Um,
you say Nosara is kind of like your boho chic town?
Absolutely. When I moved here, it was more, people that wanted to get away from, you know, Big Brother, and people that wanted to just live their life and not have to worry about taxes and, all that minutia. And everybody knew each other. You knew everyone at the coffee shop. Everyone, we go to the beach, you knew everyone's name. And, if you had an issue, 100 people would say, "What do you need?" And now it's, I think I know 10 people. It's more of you go to the beach and you might know 3 or 4 people. And you ask anyone that's been here for a few years and they'll tell you the same thing. There are people that don't care if they have that. They just come here, they want to buy property that they can just rent out for income. So in that sense, in the 5 years I've been here, that's changed drastically. Also, with the opening of the Del Mar Academy, which is a Montessori school, there are people that are coming from all over the world to put their children in the school, and the school is not cheap. So you have to have, you know, enough money to be able to do that, afford, living and groceries and everything else. So it's a whole different vibe now here.
How is it being a single woman moving down there? Are there certain like certain adjustments that were different? I mean, were you, I don't know, scared to kind of do this by yourself, or were you able to
Well,
find friends quickly? You just don't give a shit.
well, well, it's because I'm lucky though because I have the pub, so I get people that come up to the pub every day. So I meet people every single day. As far as being scared as a single person, the location that I'm in, I'm up on a mountain. I'm not scared at all. I do have neighbors. They're not real close to me, to my property, but they're close enough where if I need something, it's 1 minute WhatsApp. Hey, can you help me out? And they're right there to help. We're all there to help each other. But as far as I don't really know if you're. I think it would be a lot easier to make friends too if I lived in the Guiones or Palata, because there's yoga classes and there's all kinds of things that people try to do to get together to meet people. So as far as meeting people, that's not a problem. And being single and coming here, not a problem. But I'm also, I've also the type that nothing really scares me, I guess. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't get scared very easily. So it all depends again on your personality. And I know in other areas of Costa Rica, there's a larger expat community of older people like myself, so it's a lot easier to meet people maybe. But again, because I have the pub, it's a lot easier for me.
Right. But
So
that's great. So you kind of formulate your own community, so to speak.
absolutely,
Um,
yeah, my regular customers are my family now and my friends. So,
right.
but
That's awesome.
but it was
That's
like
so
that in the
awesome.
States for me too. So I think I just had that. I've had the 4 restaurants in the States. It's the same thing. My restaurant customers and my staff become my family, and I just did the same thing here. So and it is because it's an Irish pub, I do get mostly expats and tourists here than I get the locals.
Well,
I don't
you'll
think.
get curious locals looking
Well,
looking
I
to
mean, I
try
do,
hard.
I do get some locals, but they don't really know what an Irish pub is, so they're not sure. Like if and when I bought the property, it was a private club. You had to be a member to come, and a lot of people still have that idea, even after almost 6 years. A lot of people still have that idea that it's a private club. They're not allowed. So I'm trying to still get the word out that no, everyone's welcome. But it's still, and because there's so many new restaurants, especially new Tico restaurants, in closer down to the areas where everyone lives, they don't necessarily make the trip up this little mountain to get to me. But it's little by little, poco a poco, they're doing it. So
That's so awesome. That's so
yeah.
awesome. So, people who are thinking about making this move to Costa Rica, of course, Costa Rica is on everybody's top 10 lists of
Oh,
places to retire or to move to.
absolutely.
What kind of advice would you give people who are thinking about doing it?
The number one thing I would give advice is what I didn't listen to, and I wish I did. Is if you're going to do it, live where you think you want to live, rent something for at least 3 months to a year. I would say 6 months to a year, but do not buy anything. Rent for 6 months to a year. That is the number one thing I would tell anyone that asks me. Because I didn't do that, and as much as I love my property, there are things that are missing in this town that I personally like, that maybe if I had gone and looked in other areas of the country, it would be more conducive to my lifestyle. I don't surf. I don't do yoga, and those are the two main things in this town. That again, it's not a negative, but for me, I'm not utilizing as much as I could if I was somewhere else that might have more things. Like I like more like a lake. I like boating. I miss boating because we don't really have any marinas where I am, and there's other areas of Costa Rica that do. So do your research. And a lot of people that they come down for like a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time, because they want to learn, but they'll stay in one spot instead of actually looking at other spots. And I cannot stress it enough. Look at as many places as you can and then narrow it down. And when you decide, oh, I want to live there for a year before you buy anything.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. And so, yeah, I think that's right on the money because people do. I know people who've bought places. You didn't buy this sight unseen, though.
No, but I definitely.
I know people who've done that too. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if you had done that. So,
No, I did. No, I didn't do that, but I definitely didn't spend enough time in the town to. But I also would say this. 5 years ago, I guess didn't realize what I do like to do as much as I do now. Not having what I enjoy doing made me realize that I do. Like again, I'm a boater, so I miss having a boat. I miss just going to the marina, jumping on a boat, and going out for a ride for the day. And there are boating tours you can do, and you can not even rent a boat, but you can go, but it's just not as easily accessible as I would like. And I'm also one that, yes, I own a restaurant, but I like to go to the beach, sit and have maybe a cocktail and an appetizer on the beach. And the closest place really for me to do that, other than the two in this town, would be Samara, which is about 40 minutes away. And again, nothing against the ones in my town, but there's only two. So it's inevitable I'm going to see all my customers there. And it's like, I like to get away once in a while. And it's, and if that's the only negative, then it's not that big of a deal. But I wish I had done a little more research. But I think I still would have bought this property just because the property itself is exactly what I wanted. I wanted something in the mountain. I wanted something cooler. But close enough to town and the beaches where it's only a 10-minute ride for me. If I want to jump in the car and go see sunset, at 5 o'clock, say, "Ooh, I want to run down and see sunset." I can. It's not that far, and I can see it from my house. I'm just not right on top of it. So,
right.
yeah.
So, what do you love most about living in Costa Rica now that you've been there for a bit?
Well, as someone who grew up in Massachusetts and even in South Carolina, I love the fact that I don't have traffic jams. We have not one street light between here and pretty much almost Tamarindo. Our traffic jams are herds of cattle. I love that. I love that. I moved here because I didn't want winter anymore. I love that we don't have the seasons. I love that it's warm. Even the rain is warm. I love the warmth. The people are just so nice and friendly, and again, if you show them respect and show that you want to be a part of the community, they'll do anything for you. I love that I meet new people from all over the world every day. I had no idea. United States, they're not really into learning all different languages. And every time I meet someone from Europe, they know 4, 5, 6 languages. They can sit at
I
a
know.
table with all these different people. And my neighbors, my neighbor, she speaks 5 languages, and she'll have people over for dinner, and she'll be talking French to one and Spanish to another and Italian. I'm like, I can barely speak English, never mind Spanish, So I guess learning different cultures, and yes, there's a lot of different cultures in the United States, but they don't embrace it as much as they do here, as far as, everybody's different here. It's there's, that even the Ticos, they come from different areas and they have different cultural differences too, depending on what area they come from. So I love that I'm learning something new every day. It,
That's so amazing. And what
yeah.
a gift, right?
Oh
Kind of
yeah.
an unexpected gift.
Exactly. And I've been invited to so many different countries now because, me, oh, come visit us. When I have people that stay here for a week, come see us in Dubai and come see. And I'm like, sure, I would do that in a second. To see, like,
That's really
again,
cool.
the thing, like I said, I've learned so much about the way people do things in other countries that you say, I had no idea that Switzerland had almost four different little countries. When I meet people from Switzerland, they're like, "Yes, I'm Swiss German, I'm Swiss Italian, I'm Swiss French." I'm like, "I don't understand." And then when they explain it, so they speak Swiss and German, and I
Right.
think I didn't know that. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
don't learn that
nice.
as Americans.
No, and it's a shame, really, especially with there's now so many different cultures in the United States too that you could learn from people, why they do things their way, and what the reasoning is, and it's just so interesting to me, and I love that, and that's why when people say, would you ever move back to the States, and I just I love that I meet so many different people here, and and learn from people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out more about K-Rays or go visit you and go grab a beer, where do they pick you out? Where do they find you?
Well, the easiest is probably Facebook, because that's where, like, every hour we're updating on what's going on, which would be K-Rae's Irish Pub and Inn in Nosara, Costa Rica. And I do have a website, which I don't know how to update, so it doesn't have as much information, but it would be it's www.k-raes.com. And the Instagram and all that. But my main thing is Facebook because I'm older, so it's easier for me to know how to use. But I'm constantly updating, sending pictures, and people will message me on there to make reservations. So a lot of times if they can't find me on Airbnb, they'll message me personally on Facebook, and that I have no problem with that because I get the message immediately and I can book them a room. And I get questions all the time about, oh, we want to go surfing, where do we go? We want to go horseback riding, where do we go? And I have no problem answering those questions because a lot of times it helps me to learn. There's so many new companies opening up every day here. It also helps me to learn that there's more in case one doesn't have any availability. Who can I call to send them to?